Yo, guys, what's going on? Coach Jamie here, and I am so excited to have you here listening to my podcast, Make Time for Your Mind with Coach Jamie, where we will be talking about all things mindset, vulnerability, personal development, ways we can become better individuals. And sometimes in that process, we'll get heavy, sometimes we'll have fun, and sometimes I will be challenging your perspective. The goal, no matter what, though, is to leave you better than you were before you tuned in. So, with that being said, let's dive in. Yo, guys, what's going on? Thank you so much for being here. Quickly, I am Coach Jamie Sharla. If you are new here, I'm a mindset transformation coach, certified life coach, and NLP practitioner, specializing in one-on-one coaching for men and women all around the world who are struggling to find fulfillment and happiness in their lives, especially the lives that they have worked so hard to build. So that's a little bit about me. And I just have a passion. It is my mission, purpose, and passion to change, add value, and impact as many lives as humanly possible in whatever means possible. Hence this podcast of wanting to just bring something different to the world, of giving you a chance to actually think for yourself. Not because the world is telling you what you should or shouldn't be doing. I want to dig into your brain and just give you a reason to think things through for you and allow you to come up with your own solutions to things, right? So that's kind of the intention here. This is season 3. And I'm really, really excited about today's topic because it's something that I don't think gets talked enough about. And a lot of it is because of our own doing. The assumptions that we make about the people in our lives is actually what's causing us to feel a lot of the loneliness that we do. So hear me out. I used to sell life insurance. And I also experienced a situation in my life where there was a death of a loved one. And so now people are grieving and money's having to be talked about. Somebody's not there anymore to be able to help guide what they wanted, right? And in that, a lot of chaos strikes within households or within these solid relationships, which these are your blood, these are your people, these are those that you know like the back of your hand. Yet all of this stuff ends up coming out. And you're like, what? I had no idea. Why did nobody ever tell me this? Right? And it's where I'm going with this is that like the people closest to us that we say we know so well, we kind of stop giving intention to those relationships. And I don't think that that's intentional. It's just that when the whirlwind of life happens, right? You're worried about careers. You're worried about yourself, you're worried about your goals, you're worried about your own family, you're worried about, all these other things that are taking place in the world, that the constant there is your friends and your family, right? They've been there since day one. You know that they're always going to be there. So you stop kind of actually pouring into those relationships. Yes, you may still hang out with one another, but how often do you actually have meaningful conversations that allow you to really know and understand them? Because also what happens is that they've been a part of your life the whole time. So like an aunt or a mother or a grandmother could still always look at their child, niece, or grandchild as that obnoxious but sweet little 4-year-old that just had tons of energy all the time and, acted a certain way. There's certain images and certain knowings of that person that they don't necessarily get back. Now, for anybody who is actually like left from their family and that natural upbringing, and then whenever you go home and you visit, that's a good way to like also catch what I'm saying here. So, personal example, all of my family is still in Ohio. I am the only family member of mine that is in Texas. Well, take that back. My one cousin is too, but you catch my drift. I'm the only one that is not around them all the time. And there's a lot of times that I go back and my family is like, I don't even know that person on social media. Like, well, yeah, because I've grown and I live a certain way here in Texas, but they still see me as that version of Jamie from when I used to live in Ohio. And I'm just as guilty of that, is because the version that I remember is the memories and the things that I have of my family back from when I was there all the time. But we are always growing and we are always changing. And when we experience life, we start to take away nuggets from those experiences and our behaviors start to form in different ways. But again, we have the tendency of making an assumption that that person in our life is still exactly the same. And we stop asking questions. We stop being intentional in the relationship because, again, they love us. They're there. If and when I want to have that conversation, I'll do it later. But later typically never comes. So this already can become very, very lonely. And it's because you start to make the assumption of what somebody is thinking, what they're feeling, how they're going to respond to something, and you simply just didn't ask. What really are your thoughts on this? Why do you feel that way? What have you learned from this situation? What matters most to you in your life? What things are happening in life right now that are teaching you something new that you didn't know before? What's one of the main things that you've noticed that's changed about you from 10 years ago, right? These aren't normal conversations that you probably have with those closest to you, because when you catch up with them, it's just going through the motions. It's surface level conversations. It's maybe relating to things of your past where you guys are still holding on to each other's perspectives of who you used to be when neither of you really are. And again, for those of you that have kind of gotten away from that, you might be more aware of that. But even those, I'm just as guilty of this too, is making an assumption that you know somebody because you cohabitate with them. You see their mannerisms and what they do on a regular basis. That doesn't mean that you genuinely know who they are, especially if you don't ask. COVID, for example, that was a huge burst in my business, was because the very people that I work with are those that are dedicated to their work. That's their drug of choice. They pour into tons of volunteering and serving and taking care of everybody else, never doing anything for themselves, chasing this sense of happiness that never comes. COVID happened. They were forced to be home between the four walls with the people they cohabitate with. Not only did they not know who they were, but they didn't know who the people were that they lived with, because they knew their spouse as the person who just seems like they're always complaining about this. Or what do you mean? They sit at home all day and they just get to cook and clean and take care of the kids, not even really knowing what their hobbies were or what problems they were dealing with, what ways they were feeling lonely, right? Like, we just get super comfortable with the everyday that we forget to stop, or we forget to just stop and actually continue building an intentional relationship with those people closest in our lives. We take them for granted, right? And again, I don't think that this is intentional. It's just chaos of life is happening. And so, one part of this is that I'm hoping this episode allows you to just kind of think through, like, man, maybe there are some ways that I'm taking advantage or just taking for granted the relationships of those closest to me that I haven't really spent much time like getting to know them or hearing them out, because I'm already painting this vision in my brain of how they're going to respond to something. Don't get me wrong. Like, especially if you cohabitate with this person, you may just as well be right in knowing how they're going to respond to a situation. But if you don't ask, or if you don't actually give them a genuine chance to show up, you're going to build up this bitterness and this resentment, and you're going to just feel so disconnected, and you're going to have this perspective of them in your brain that it's going to lead to loneliness. You're going to feel like nobody cares to hear or understand you. But at the end of the day, how much are you really caring, hearing, and understanding them? We're meant for relationships. Like, connection is what makes us feel loved and supported and motivates us to want to do more. That's a lot of where this fulfillment comes from. but it takes work and being intentional in those relationships. So my call to action for you this week is I want you to reach out to somebody in your close bubble, whether you live with them, whether it's a family member, a friend, a coworker, a significant other, whatever that may be. And I want you to genuinely sit down and have a conversation. Ask them questions. Don't just assume you know how they think or how they're going to respond to something. Genuinely give them the opportunity to share with you the thing that you're assuming. Because I can guarantee that more times than not, the assumption that you were making was false. So, as always, I would love your feedback. Give this a try. Share with me the outcome. What did you learn about that person? What did you assume wrongly about that person? And how did you feel after having these conversations with that person? Thank you guys so much for being here. With love and accountability, Coach Jamie out.